I'm going to tell you a story I heard recently from a Swami. A Swami is an Indian monk, wise man, whose life's dedicated to higher wisdom. Okay? And the story went like this. There was a master and an apprentice, or the student, and the master gave the student a jewel, a little jewel, and said, take this to the market and ask around and see how much it's worth. So he goes to somebody with an apple cart, and she says, oh, I'll give you 10 pounds of apples. And he's like, no. She's like, okay, 20 pounds of apples, but that's my best price. He's like, okay, thank you. Carries on, goes to the chicken stand and says, how much will you give me for this jewel? And they say, I'll give you 2 chickens. And then he says, no thanks. And they say, okay, well, 3 chickens, but that's our best offer. He says, okay, thank you. And then he goes to a jewelry shop, a small jewelry shop, and they look at the jewel, they have some experience with jewelry, and they say, okay, we're gonna give you 10 gold pieces for this jewel. He says, okay, no, thank you, carries on. Then he goes to the biggest jeweler in town, and he gives this jewel and says, how much is this worth? And the jeweler looks at it, is quiet for a while, looks at it, looks up and says, I will give you everything I own, this entire jewelry shop, every single last penny that I have, all of the jewels in here for this one jewel. And he says, okay, no thank you, goes back to the master. And then I'm adding my own spin at the end of this. Because the moral of the story is that you are much, much richer than you think. Why? Because the jewel is your breath. How much would you sell your breath to someone for? So that means that you don't have breath anymore, which means you die, right? I was a firefighter, I've seen lots of people who don't have breath anymore, right? Drowned, asphyxiated. I guarantee any of those people or their family were willing to pay any price to keep their breath. So if somebody said, I'll give you $1 billion, but you don't get to breathe anymore, you're gonna say no. If Elon Musk calls you on the phone and he says, I'm gonna give you $44 billion, all I need is that you give me your breath. And, you stop breathing, you get $44 billion. You're not gonna take that deal. That means that the jewel that you have been given is worth more than any fortune that exists, than any monetary amount in the world, because I can guarantee you're not going to take that deal no matter what the value, no matter, whatever you want the most in the world, you're not going to trade it for your breath. That's the most precious thing you own, which makes you extremely rich. So don't forget that lesson.